It was a calm evening in a small American town. The streets were empty, and the sound of crickets filled the air. Inside a cozy little house at the end of Maple Street, Sarah, a 26-year-old nurse, returned home after a long shift. She was tired, half asleep, and just wanted to rest. After taking a quick shower, she made a cup of tea, turned on her favorite show, and sat on the couch. The clock on the wall showed 11:48 p.m. She yawned, stretched, and decided it was time for bed. What she didn't notice, though, was the faint creak of her front porch outside, or the fact that the front door was still unlocked. Sarah walked into her bedroom, leaving the TV running in the living room. The glow from a screen flickered through the hallway as she climbed into bed. Her eyes grew heavy, and she fell asleep almost instantly. At 12:27 a.m., the TV suddenly went silent. The signal turned to static. The only sound now was the slow ticking of the wall clock. In the kitchen, the wind pushed lightly against the half-open window. Then came a faint sound, a door hinge squeaking. Someone had pushed the front door open just a few inches. Footsteps, soft, careful, slowly moving down the hallway. Sarah shifted in her sleep, unaware that the air inside the room was no longer still. A shadow crossed the light from the TV, then vanished. The floor creaked again near her bedroom door. The handle turned slightly, then stopped. Sarah's phone buzzed on the nightstand, a message from her neighbor. "Hey, did you mean to leave your front door open?" The message went unread. Sarah was still asleep, and the bedroom door was no longer closed. The clock ticked softly. The house stood silent except for the faint hum of the fridge. Sarah turned slightly in her sleep, unaware that her bedroom door had opened halfway. The dim light from the hallway slipped inside, creating long, shaky shadows across her bed and the walls. Something moved just beyond the door. Slow, quiet, almost human. The sound of a shoe brushing against the floor came next. It wasn't loud, but in the stillness of the night, it sounded sharp, like a whisper slicing through silence. Sarah's eyes flickered open for a second. She thought she had heard something. Half awake, she looked toward the door. It was open. "Did I leave that open?" she murmured weakly, her voice barely a whisper. She reached for her phone on the nightstand, but before her fingers touched it, she froze. It was breathing, not hers, low and steady, coming from somewhere near the door. She sat up quickly, heart racing. "Hello," she called, her voice shaking. No answer, only silence. Sarah got out of bed slowly, every muscle trembling. She stepped closer to the door, one cautious step at a time. Her hand reached out and flipped on the hallway light, but the switch clicked uselessly. The power was out. Now the house was darker than ever. Suddenly, a faint reflection appeared on the glass of the picture frame hanging beside the door, a tall, blurred shape behind her. She spun around, but no one was there. Panicking, Sarah rushed to her front door to check the lock. The door stood open, swaying slightly with the night breeze. Her heart dropped. She slammed it shut and locked it tight this time. As she turned around, her eyes widened. On the floor, near her bedroom door, lay a muddy footprint. It wasn't hers. Sarah's hands trembled as she stared at the muddy footprint on the floor. Her heart pounded so loudly she could almost hear it echo in the hallway. She slowly stepped back, her mind trying to make sense of what she was seeing. She had been home alone all night. She was sure of it. The footprint led away from her bedroom door and down the hall. 1, 2, 3 prints, each slightly smeared, as if whoever had made them was walking slowly, dragging their feet. Sarah picked up her phone, trying to call 911, but the screen stayed black. The battery had died. "No, no, no," she whispered, shaking the device. She ran to the kitchen to grab the landline phone, but when she lifted it, there was no dial tone, just a faint, empty hum. The air in the house felt colder now. She could see her breath as she exhaled. Goosebumps crawled across her skin. Then she heard it again. Creak, creak. The sound of footsteps coming from the hallway. Sarah turned her head slowly toward the noise. The muddy prints on the floor had changed. There were more now, stretching farther toward the living room. Someone, or something, was moving inside the house. Her shaking hand reached for a kitchen knife. The room was dimly lit by the faint glow of the TV, still showing white static. She crouched behind the counter, trying to listen. Then the sound stopped. Complete silence. Sarah peeked over the counter edge toward the hallway. Nothing. Just the open doorway and darkness beyond. And then the TV flickered. A figure appeared on the screen. A tall shadow, standing right behind her couch. Sarah froze. Her breath caught in her throat. Slowly, with trembling eyes, she turned toward the living room. The couch was empty, but the faint smell of wet mud filled the air. Sarah's pulse was racing. The house felt alive, every sound sharper, every shadow darker. The faint static light from the TV flickered across the walls, making the whole living room seem to breathe. She clutched the knife tightly, her hands slick with sweat. Her eyes darted toward the couch. No one was there, but the air was thick with the smell of wet earth and metal, like old rain mixed with rust. She took a slow step forward. The wooden floor creaked beneath her. Then, from the corner of the room, she saw it, a figure standing near the window. A tall, thin man, completely still, his face hidden in darkness. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice shaking. No answer. The figure didn't move. Sarah raised a knife higher. "Get out of my house." The shadow tilted its head slightly, as if curious. Then it stepped forward, slow, deliberate, 1 foot at a time. Sarah backed away, her knees trembling. She reached for the light switch on the wall, flipping it rapidly. Nothing. The power was still dead. The man was now closer. She could barely make out his face in the flickering TV light. Pale skin, hollow eyes, lips curled into something that looked almost like a grin. Panicking, Sarah threw the knife. It hit the floor uselessly, clattering against the tiles. The figure didn't even flinch. Instead, it turned its head toward the hallway, then back to her, as if warning her not to follow, and slowly disappeared into the dark corridor. Sarah gasped, grabbed her phone again, and this time it flickered on. The screen lit up to show the camera app, opened by itself. The photo gallery showed one new image. Her bedroom, taken minutes ago, while she was asleep. Sarah's breath grew short as she stared at the phone screen. Her hand shook so hard she almost dropped it. The newest photo in her gallery showed her own bedroom, the exact angle from the foot of her bed. She zoomed in slowly. There she was asleep, peaceful. But behind her, standing in the corner near the curtains, was that same dark figure. Her stomach turned. "No, this can't be real," she whispered. She flipped through her gallery again. Another picture, then another. All taken that night. All of her, sleeping. In each one, the figure was closer. In the last photo, the shadow stood right beside her bed. Her heart pounded against her ribs. She stumbled backward, nearly tripping on the rug. The living room felt smaller now, like the walls were closing in. She rushed to the front door, fumbled with the lock, and yanked it open. The cold night air hit her face. She was about to step outside when her phone buzzed again, a new message notification. It was from an unknown number. The message read, "Why did you lock me out?" Sarah froze. Her throat went dry. Slowly, she turned toward the dark hallway behind her. The house was silent again, too silent. Then she heard it, the sound of a knock, soft but heavy, coming from the back door this time. 1, 2, 3 knocks, each one slower than the last. Sarah ran toward the kitchen, grabbed the nearest drawer handle, and pulled it open. Empty. No knife. No weapon. Another knock. Louder this time. The window beside the sink rattled slightly. And then a whisper, close to her ear, though no one stood near. You shouldn't have locked it now. Her phone slipped from her shaking hand, landing face down. The screen still glowed, showing her camera app. Recording. The knocking grew faster, louder. It moved from the back door to the windows, then to the walls. Thud, thud, thud. It sounded like 100 fists beating from every side of the house. Sarah screamed and backed into the corner of the kitchen, her hands over her ears. "Stop! Please stop!" she cried, but the sound only grew stronger. The lights flickered, then the power returned for just a second. The kitchen light blinked on and off, and in those brief flashes, Sarah saw handprints, dark and muddy, smearing across the windows from the outside. She grabbed her car keys and ran to the front door. When she turned the lock, it wouldn't budge. She pulled harder, but the door was stuck as if something heavy was pressing against it from outside. Her phone buzzed again on the floor, the same unknown number flashing on the screen. Another message appeared. "You left the door open for me once. Why shut it now?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She ran upstairs, hoping to escape through her bedroom window. Her footsteps echoed on the wooden stairs. Behind her, she heard the slow creak of the front door opening again. She reached her bedroom and slammed the door shut. The wind howled outside. The window curtains fluttered violently, even though the glass was closed. Then came another sound, slow, deliberate footsteps on the stairs. Each step groaned under the weight of something, someone. Sarah pressed her ear against the bedroom door. Silence. Then, a faint whisper slipped through the crack. "You should have stayed asleep." Her phone buzzed again. One last message appeared. It was a live photo taken seconds ago, from outside her bedroom door. Her hand shook. She looked toward the door handle. It began to turn. The door handle turned slowly, creaking louder with each movement. Sarah froze, her back pressed against the far wall. Her breathing was sharp, shallow, and fast. The air felt heavy, like the room itself was holding its breath with her. The door clicked open just an inch. A cold draft slipped inside, making the curtains sway. Sarah held her phone in front of her, the flashlight trembling in her shaking hand. "I'm calling the police," she shouted, her voice cracking. No reply, just silence. Then, from the darkness behind the door, a hand appeared, pale, bony, and wet with mud. It gripped the edge of the door slowly, pulling it wider. Sarah's scream caught in her throat. She backed into the corner until there was nowhere left to go. The figure stepped inside. The same tall man from before, face ghostly white, eyes hollow, lips stretched into a half smile. He didn't speak. He just watched her, his head slightly tilted. Sarah's phone began buzzing again. The flashlight flickered. When she looked down at the screen, she saw her camera app had turned on by itself again, recording. She raised the phone toward him, shaking. "What do you want from me?" The man whispered softly. "You let me in once, remember?" Her phone slipped from her hand and fell to the floor. The light spun across the room, landing on the doorway. There, faintly visible in the reflection of the mirror, were dozens of other figures, all watching, all silent. The last thing Sarah saw before the light went out was the man's face right in front of hers, whispering something she couldn't understand. The next morning, the neighbor knocked on her door after noticing it wide open again. The house was quiet. The TV still showed static. Sarah was gone, but on the couch lay her phone, still recording.